I am going to be teaching a lot of stuff in this class. I'm going to be condensing a section of one of my courses into this class. It's my favorite thing I'm teaching right now, and it's called the Tarot Mysticism Process. It's going to be a lot, so what I am going to recommend, if you choose, you can download the accompanying guide for this class. It's 33 pages, and you can get it in the link in the video, and I will post it in the comments now. What I'm going to be teaching today is, so my name is Joe Monteleone. I've been reading tarot forever. I started the Tarot Mysticism Academy after an ineffable mystical experience to connect mystical misfits from around the world to explore tarot's perennial philosophy, both in divination and personal development, and ultimately in mysticism and asking those big ontological questions. So, so that's the deeper areas of mystical philosophy and ontology is what we're going to be exploring in this class. So if, some of you have known, I've been going through a big transformation in my work with tarot as I'm kind of shifting a little bit out of divination and a little bit more into mysticism and personal development. And so that's what I'm going to be sharing with you guys today. Today I'm going to be synthesizing a lot of stuff from Advaita Vedanta to Neoplatonism to tarot to hermeticism and qabbalah. It's going to be a lot. So that's why I made this guide, to help guide us along. The actual process, the actual technique that I will be teaching you, I'm not going to actually teach you until the end. We need to kind of climb our way up there. We have to really clearly know what it is and know what it is not, because it's very easy to take this technique and use it for what it is not, which is not like dangerous or anything. You're not going to like summon a demon or whatever, but it is it's not the full thing. So without further ado, let's jump into this bad boy, the Tarot Mysticism Process. Okay, so what I find is there's three main levels of tarot work. This is not like strict, like this is what it is, it's set in stone. This is just how I have experienced tarot, the three different levels that I've experienced it for me and my clients and many of my students. And it kind of goes like this. Up top we have level 1, which is mechanical, which is related to the personal. Level 2 is the subtle causal, which is related to the personal connecting to the transpersonal. And then we have level 3, which is the mystical, which is the transpersonal. So level 1, the mechanical. In level 1, we're using tarot to see what bodies are doing in time and space. It's like the personal. It's the typical thing that people expect from a tarot reader that may not have been working with tarot for a while. They want to know what's going to happen to them. They're going to want to know, when will I get married? What is my next job? Will my health improve? All things to do with what will happen to me in the future, or what happened to me in the past, or what is happening to me now. Now, this is a mechanical level because it all has to do with how things bump into each other or knock into each other in the Newtonian universe, like dominoes, to show what's going to happen. This is divination, right? So that's one level of divination. Then for many of us, we go to level 2, which is the subtle causal level of tarot and or divination. And in level 2, we're not looking at what is knocking into what physically. We're not looking at the Newtonian universe. We're looking at what is causing the physical circumstances to show up. So this could be psychologically, this could be energetically, this could be all of that subtle, more elusive, more jazzy kind of astral plane stuff, archetype, symbol, all the fuzzy fun stuff. What is in there, or back here, that is causing what will happen to me? So the mode of questioning in level 2 is, who am I? Who am I? By answering that, we can figure out what is showing up and why. Okay, it's a leap ahead of this, right? So level 1, people ask, what is going to happen to me? They're not taking as much agency in their experience. Level 2 is taking more agency in their experience. They're saying, who am I, and how does that cause what is showing up in my world, right? It's a little bit more, it's a little higher level of work. And so that's the personal relating to the transpersonal, because it looks within the individual self and says, what is in me that is a shared human experience that I can connect with the rest of the species and modify to create what I want to show up, right? Because if you could hold it in your mind, you could hold it in your hand, law of attraction, manifestation, all that. Okay, Cool. Level 3, let's move on. Level 3 is the mystical, the transpersonal. So in this level, this is the highest level of tarot reading, and it's not so much reading, it's more direct knowledge. At this level, we don't ask, who am I? We ask, what am I? Another big leap ahead of this, and what this does is it not only transcends the collective human experience, it transcends like the human species, like what is consciousness, or what is reality, or what is God, or what is, however you want to say it, what is the ultimate ground of being. So we go from the personal, which is what is going to happen to me in this body, level 1. Level 2, who am I? That includes this body, that includes this mind, that is creating what is showing up in my life. And then level 3, what am I? Not just who am I, what am I? That includes the human experience, that includes what's happening to me personally, okay? Tarot reading and divination in general tends to hang out here and maybe pokes its head in here a little bit. It usually hangs, most people expect it to be here. Most professionals work both in these places. Some professionals do only one or the other, you know. The psychological, energetic aspect of tarot has really, I think, ramped up in the past decade or so. But this is where I feel like things are lacking, and this is where I'm very interested in right now. Because for me, I think enlightenment is the best goal ever. I want to end suffering for me. I want to end suffering for my friends and family and people of the world. And not only is this something that's possible, it's probable, and it's inevitable if you ascribe to some philosophies, you know, the great work or the collective moving forward. I don't know. There's a bunch of things, but yeah, and so for me, when I'm working with Tarot Mysticism and the Tarot Mysticism process, it gets me to the point where I don't even have to know what's going to show up in my world. It's just a whole nother level of work. Like, I want to experience that vast peace that mystics and Neoplatonists, philosophers and Vedantin monks and occultists and high magicians, that they all talk about, right? It's not this like weird thing that you have to like go across the magical rainbow and get the pot of gold, you know. It's like, it's a deeper, more intimate apprehension of reality. So that's kind of what we're going to be approaching a little bit in this class together. All right, so this is a sort of graph of the perennial philosophy. Now, I'm totally not the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, so what these are not strict correspondences, but they are helpful comparisons of various mystical traditions that will elucidate for us not only what the tarot is symbolizing, but the methods that we can use with tarot. So on the bottom we have, in the Tree of Life in Kabbalah, we have Malkuth, the physical world, this experience. In Plotinus, he calls it nature. In the Mandukya Upanishad, this might be considered the Vishwa or Virat, or the gross body. In Tantra, this might be the Deha, the body. And this is the mechanical plane. This is what are bodies and things doing? How are they knocking into each other to create what is showing up in front of us? If we move up a level, in this yellow area, we're looking at the subtle causal. This might be what Plotinus considers potentially the soul. This is the hexad of the Tree of Life. This is the element of air. So this is earth down here. This is air. This is the chitta of the Tantra tradition. This is the Manomaya Kosha of the Taittiriya Upanishad. They're all very similar. And generally, this is the mind stuff. This is the psychological stuff. This can sort of include the astral body maybe and has a relationship with prana. But yeah, they're all kind of divided a little bit separately. When we move on from this level, we get into the coolest level, which is this blue area. This is above the mind, above the body. And in this blue area, this is the place that philosophers and mystics and sages have been looking at, like investigating so fervently, so intensely, so passionately for thousands of years. It's this magical moment where Plotinus really says it best. Plotinus started Neoplatonism. He was like a mystical philosopher, and he really, influenced tarot, qabbalah, and a lot of this stuff. Maybe he didn't. I'm no historian, but from my knowledge, he freaking did. It's amazing stuff. And it's essentially what he calls the nous, the intellect. And I can't describe it in 2 seconds, but I'm going to try. It's essentially the contradiction of how something exists because it reflects on itself. How else can something be said to exist without something other than itself saying, you exist, don't you? Right? I exist indeed, right? A little bit of a Cartesian moment, I think, therefore I am. So at this level, it's even beyond the mind. And what we're going to find out is it's very connected to the Ouroboros, the alchemical Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail, because it's the self infinitely becoming aware of itself. It's a contradiction, but it's like the only way for something to ever exist. And then above that is red, and I can't even say any words about that because that is actually ineffable and you can't transmit it into words. So this is kind of the ladder that we're going to be looking at. When we read tarot in the mechanical plane, what we're looking at is what is going to happen to me down here. What is going to knock into what, to knock into what, to knock into what, to create my experience. When we view it in the causal subtle plane, we're asking, who am I? Who am I psychologically? Who am I? What is my disposition? What is the energy body? What are my energy bodies? What is my traumas? What are my hopes? And how is that directing my life? And then we have the blue area, which is just being, the nous, the intellect, that moment of I exist, which even transcends the mind. And so what we're going to be looking at in this class is the I exist place. Okay, let's move on from here. So I'm going to introduce to you the one vocabulary word of this whole class. I'm only using one vocabulary word. And the vocabulary word you all have to learn is the word thing, the word things, okay? So tarot divination is about things. Divination is about becoming aware of things, which for our purposes include people and places, for our purposes. So let's define things. Ready? You got to memorize this one. Things are done, made, different, or changeable. They are here or there, coming or going, and they always arise in consciousness. So what's a thing? A thing, for our purposes in this class, is anything that is done, made, different, or changeable, coming or going, here or there, in time or space. Cool? Now, consciousness, from a non-dual perspective, is not done, made, different, or changeable. It is both here and there and neither coming nor going. It simply is, right? Because you can never point to your consciousness because no matter what you point to, it's going to be in your consciousness. This is a big one. And I don't have time to like really go into this, but you can replace consciousness, whatever your faith is, whatever your paradigm is. You could put God, you could put absolute, you could put just existence. You know, you could take an atheistic approach and be like, you know what, just existence is not done, made, different, or changeable. It is both here and there, neither coming nor going, it simply is. So we're looking for the isness here. Oh, look, things being done, made, different, or changeable on the Magician card. Very cool. So let's talk a little bit more about things. In tarot divination, we identify with something, right? Anything done, made, different, or changeable in time or space, here or there, coming or going. So from a mystical perspective, all these four ways to describe a thing are the same thing. When you do something, you make. When you make, you differentiate. When you differentiate something, you change something. But from a divinatory perspective, they're different. So we might explore this in the four elements. So in fire, we have doing. That's when you do something, you happen to the world. So doing your job, doing your thing, doing good, doing bad. That's the suit of wands. Suit of cups and water, this is making. What is making? Making is when you make something, you combine parts of reality into a new form. So the element we know is water. The example is making love, making art, making people happy, or making a fuss. All different just examples. Differentiating, this is a big one. When you differentiate, you make water. When you differentiate, you make one thing different than something else. Element, air. In the same way as a sword will differentiate by cutting something in two. See how we're shifting into duality here? Example, I am not like those people, but I am like these people. Or whenever you say, oh, I'm different. Oh, I'm different. I'm different. That's differentiating. And it's cool. We all do it. It's part of the creative process. By the way, all of this is a creative process. It's literally how we create our day. It's how we create our life. It's how we create our experience. You are doing, making, differentiating, and changing as you're listening to me right now, right? You're doing this class with me. You're making conclusions. You're differentiating yourself from ideas that you might like or not like or whatever. You're changing. Your neurons and all the neural choreography is having a fun time shifting. So it's all happening right here and now. Nothing I tell you in this class is going to be something that you have to go get magically or superstitiously. I'm not going to tell you to do these many Hail Marys or this many meditations or whatever. It's right now. Like, it's direct, okay? That's kind of my whole thing for like the next year or two of my tarot career is like, when do we actually look at our current direct experience and say, oh no, this is it. I don't have to wait 10 years for the prediction. I don't have to cast the spell and then it arrives. This is it. You've arrived, right? So being different creates a different world. Yes, exactly. And then the diversity of the world is the beautiful result of everyone doing, making, differentiating, and changing, okay? And I'm not saying this is good or bad. It's both. It's whether we create a masterpiece or create war. The consciousness doesn't care. It's just reality, you know? From the perspective of consciousness, it's the same. So we know what tarot divination is doing, right? Because it's all about what is done, made different, changeable, here or there, coming or going. But what does tarot mysticism do? Well, in tarot mysticism, there is no thing. Remember what a thing is, done, made different, or changeable. There just is. Tarot mysticism is the art of affirming real existence without conditions. It's simply being. So where tarot divination and or manifestation might be, I am doing this, or I'm going to be doing my job. I'm going to be making love. I'm going to be differentiating myself. I am going to be changing. Tarot mysticism is just I am. I am. I am. I am. It's the silence through which all of these things happen. You might compare it to the magician card, like the top of the magician, potentially. And we're going to get to him in a little bit. But what you'll really understand is that this is all the Fool. The Fool is card number 0, and every number shows up after 0. The Fool is the simple I am, in one regard. The world is I am in another regard. Okay, we're going to keep going. So I am what, right? I am what? I am that I am. Okay, I am that I am. The famous quote of God in the burning bush in Exodus to Moses. We're going there. It's so fun. And this creates a sort of isomorphism in math where one structure relates itself to another structure. And this is the great work. This is like when people think about high magic or mysticism, the great work, whatever you want to call it, it's the moment of recognition that the microcosm, that your life is no separate than the universe. It's radical connection, and it happens through radical self-surveillance, which is mysticism, or radical inputting of energy and invoking energy, which is magic. Okay, and other ways too. Yoga, there's literally infinite paths for this, but anyway. So to review what we got here, we got the tarot reading process. The tarot reading process is a subject. The questioner or the reader becomes aware of things. What are things? Anything done, made different, or changeable, here or there, coming or going in time or space. A subject becomes aware of things through a symbolic medium, cards, whatever, runes, love runes, Jane, that was so cool, Lenormand, whatever. But for our purposes, tarot. When you're reading for others, what happens? A reader becomes aware of things, anything done, made different, or changeable, here or there, coming or going, in another subject, which is the questioner, through the symbolic medium of cards. So step 1, step 2, step 3, okay? That's reading for other people. The tarot mysticism process is not that. And when I teach it to you at the end, there may be people that you want to make it this, and that's okay, it's not wrong, but the tarot mysticism process is not that, okay? In the tarot mysticism process, instead of using the cards to become aware of a thing, the reader, the questioner, the seeker becomes aware of its own being directly. There is no idea of itself in the future or the past or anywhere. Because whenever, and this is my big, and I've been reading tarot for many years, and I teach people how to do this, so this is my whole living, so I'm going to be honest with you. I love doing this. I love reading tarot. It's so helpful. It's helped people in so many ways. It's helped me in so many ways. But, no matter what, whenever you go into divination, you cannot escape this one ontological problem. If you are reading for yourself or reading for somebody else, who is the person sitting there? You cannot divine for yourself in the colloquial sense at least, if you are, without splitting yourself into an idea of yourself. This is big. It's not a bad thing. It's a thing that we do all the time, and thank God we can do this. It's called self-awareness, right? It's what is happening in these prefrontal cortexes that we've developed however many tens of thousands of years ago. It's fun, yes, but that contradiction, that paradox will always be there, and I am ready to rip it apart, right? It's just like, because there's always, it's not really a lie, but there's a subtle lie, because here you are doing a divination, but there's never going to be that you outside of that part of you that is looking. That part of you that is looking at the card is the answer in the moment, right? So that's kind of my, not issue, but my curiosity with shifting divination into tarot mysticism. Okay, so just to review, when we're doing divination, we cannot help but identify with things. Things are what we do, make, change, or differentiate here or there, coming or going, okay? Even if you're not divining in time, you're still looking at an aspect of yourself within your whole self, which is fine, but we have to recognize that. Manifestation is the same way. When you manifest, you're saying this is, you feel what you want to have, and then you recognize that you have it already, and then it shows up physically, but there's a before and after shot. So there's a before you and an after you, always. That's the duality of it. So when we're doing divination and manifestation, we are looking at things. What is done, made different, or changeable here or there, coming or going. When we're doing tarot mysticism, we are looking at no thing. Okay, so let's explore no thing. There are infinite traditions that have an amazing idea about no thing, from Kabbalah to the Mula Madhyamaka Karika of Nagarjuna and Buddhism, to Zen, to the Upanishads, to the Kabbalion, to all this stuff has some element of nothingness or everythingness that is kind of similar. So let's look into this no thingness. So no thing is kind of like the whole thing about mysticism or non-duality, or the apex of the sages and philosophers and mystics. No thing can be expressed in two ways, usually. There is the apophatic way and the cataphatic way. The apophatic way, and when I say no thing, you can replace that with the ultimate, the ground of being, God, consciousness, reality, whatever you want to say. I like the word consciousness. I feel like it is comfortable. It's the best I got, but whatever. So no thing, when we express it apophatically, we are expressing it by saying what it is not. Right? So when a mystic has a mystical experience, they run and try to tell people, and they look insane. So for thousands of years, mystics have been trying to transmit this gnosis or mystical experience or whatever from all traditions. Here's a couple examples of the apophatic approach. So the apophatic, remember, is saying what it is not. So the sunyata, the doctrine of the void, emptiness. This is big in Zen. This is the Mula Madhyamaka tradition of Buddhism. It's all about realizing that nothing has inherent quality and everything is inherently empty. And then it goes as far as to say that even the doctrine of emptiness is in itself empty. So to very crudely summarize this super profound philosophy of Nagarjuna, it's like it just constantly refutes anything you say about the absolute. It's constantly refuting it. There's a humble thing with that. It's very philosophical. It's very deep. If you want more information on that, you have to read Mula Madhyamaka Karika by Nagarjuna. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, pardon my pronunciation, we have the famous neti neti, which is not that approach to Brahman, the absolute. So it's constantly saying it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, and then hopefully you get to the point where what you're left with is the absolute. Yoga does this as well, but yoga does this through actual practice, not so much words and teachings and transmission in that way. It's you're actually shutting things, aspects of yourself down, saying not that, not that, not that, and then the ultimate eventually is revealed underneath it all. Underneath it all. Okay, so another example, Pseudo-Dionysius the Areopagite, a Christian Neoplatonist. And then another example is the Ein Sof of the Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, which if you've taken any of my classes ever, you know I'm a sucker for the Kabbalah. I'm a sucker for that tree of life. And it's coming. It is coming. Okay, so if you don't want to find this ultimate, find spiritual enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, through negation, through the apophatic approach, there's the cataphatic approach. So in this way, the absolute is transmitted or expressed by attempting to show what it is as opposed to what it is not. And of course, you know, if you follow the Mula Majjhimaka tradition, they'd be like, you can't do that. You literally can't. And they're right, you know, but many have tried, including the Upanishads and Plotinus and many other amazing writers of this work. So the best way I can describe what a cataphatic approach to divinity or the absolute would be is a radical ontological affirmation. Okay? So in this mode, the mystic attempts to point at the ultimate reality instead of describing what it is not. But I'm going to bring back my favorite contradiction that I introduced to you 5 minutes ago. But the ultimate reality includes all things. How does one point at something that includes the one pointing? This very paradox has inspired so many amazing writings. And I'm going to give you some of my favorite examples. So on the next page are some of my favorite examples of these great, powerful, radical, ontological affirmations that attempt to point at the absolute unity, whatever you want to call it, consciousness, God, reality, ground of being, whatever. So I have some oldies and some new ones, some contemporary ones and some classics. So these are, in the next page, we're looking at ontological affirmations, mahavakyas, and other slightly isomorphic mystical mic drops. So these are some of the most profound sayings that any human has ever said about reality, God, whatever, okay? Whatever you want to call it. So a number of these are the mahavakyas, or the great sayings of the Upanishads. The first one is the most famous one, thou art that, tatvamasi. That's from the Chandogya Upanishad. And the whole approach of the Advaita Vedantins is directly, you are that which you're looking for, Brahman consciousness, existence consciousness, bliss. And there's so much deep, I thought Western philosophy was cool. Oh my God, Indian philosophy is incomparable. It's like so ahead. It's so freaking cool. But it'll twist yourself into the nothingness of that you are. Anyway, here's a biblical one just for fun, right? I am that I am. I love that one. Exodus. Here's from the Aitareya Upanishad. Pragyana is Brahman, wisdom is the self. The self is Brahman of the Mandukya Upanishad. In Zen, there's Tathata, the suchness, the direct suchness of the universe, the pure being just right there, that direct, that you can't even put into the words. And here's one from Parmenides. This one's a little bit longer, but it still kind of does the same thing. So you gotta stick with me for this one, because he's pretty cool. Parmenides says, he's describing his own mystical experience. He's describing what a goddess is saying to him. The goddess says, come now, I will tell thee the only two ways of search that can be thought of. The first, namely, that it is. Okay? Radical ontological affirmation there. It is. Very simple. The first, that it is. And that it is impossible for anything not to be. Remember when I defined thing? Thing is something done, made, different, or changeable, here or there, coming or going. No, it is impossible for anything not to be. So the common underlying thing of all the things is that they are. It's the isness. So she says, it's impossible for anything not to be. That is the way of conviction, for truth is its companion. So the whole idea here is no matter what you're doing in life, no matter what your cards say, no matter what your runes say, no matter what shows up in your life, it is. It is good, it is bad, it is hot, it is cold, it is on Facebook, it is off Facebook, it is the moment, whatever, but it is. And pulling into that isness is the best investment I think anyone can make. I don't know, that's what I think, because everything else is going to freaking change. So, yeah. That's what I'm looking for tarot mysticism. Tarot divination, love it, I'll do it. I'm still going to do it, I'm still going to teach it. But tarot mysticism, it's like it turns it inside out. Anyway, continuing, here's from A Course in Miracles, which is a super cool, more contemporary mystical text, but it's very radical, it's very non-dual. It says, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. That's the first sentence on this whole book that this person channeled. That's like a modern Mahavakya. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Every time we experience fear, and I'm no stranger to fear, like any time we experience fear, we believe or we persuade ourselves that something can be threatened within us. Our job, our security, our reputation, our health, our whatever relationship. But the ultimate reality is the isness underlying that. So if we recognize the isness, we realize nothing that is real can be threatened. Okay, there's a whole book on it. Like, this stuff takes a long time, by the way. So if I haven't scared you away yet, thanks so much for sticking with me. It's really fun stuff. Ana al-Haq, I am the truth. Here's from the Gita, I, O Arjuna, am that which is and that which is not. And from Plotinus down here. By the way, Plotinus is so sexy. He has these great cheekbones. What a dreamboat, right? The all is universal power of infinite extent and infinite potency, a God so great that all his parts are infinite. Name any place, and he is already there. Remember, a thing is here or there, but consciousness reality is neither or both. Okay, we're going to continue. So these are the ontological affirmations, these mahavakyas and other slightly isomorphic mystical mic drops. And what we're going to do is when we start applying this method, this formula, this isomorphic relationship between the microcosm and the macrocosm, the below and the above, right? Emerald tablet, as above, so below. This is what we're doing. The as above, so below is this, right? It's not some mystical thing you have to figure out and do a bunch of rituals. It's here, it's the moment, it's happening, and it's about realizing the lack of difference between the two. And I know, like, people tell me, like, sometimes, oh, the philosopher's stone is a piss crystal. I'm like, it's so much more interesting than that. Like, if you want your philosopher's stone to be a piss crystal, have fun. My philosopher's stone is recognizing that I'm everything. And it's so much better, I think, than a piss crystal. Anyway, we'll talk about that in another video or another class. Okay, so, so these ontological affirmations create expressions of self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is a paradox. Remember, how can a self know itself without something other than itself, right? I am that. Okay, but what's the difference between that and I? Thou art that. Okay, but what's the difference between thou and that? I am that I am. Okay, well, what's the difference between the two I ams? You see the paradox here? Why does it have to be stated? It's going to go into another. So there's two ways that this separation. There's two methods of self-knowledge, and it's generally going down the tree of life in manifestation or going up the tree of life in mysticism. When we go into manifestation, the consciousness absolute, whatever you want to call it, reality, becomes a thing, which is something that is done, made different, or changeable here or there, coming or going in time or space. That's manifestation, that's creation, boom. It's so much fun. Look how much fun we're having. I'm having fun. Yeah, let's keep doing it, right? But then there's the other way of self-knowledge, which is mysticism, right? So you might want to know yourself by creating yourself in this body, by incarnating in this mind, by doing that thing, by making love, by getting that job, all things that are done, made different, or changeable. But another way you could know yourself is by unbecoming a thing, right? So unbecoming a thing is removing identifications from all the things that you may do, make, differentiate, change, here or there, coming or going in time or space. Okay. So in Tarot Divination, a self knows itself by looking into its own creations or ideas of itself. It looks at things. Tarot Divination, manifestation, like language works with things, okay? Because language is linear. If whatever I tell you, there's a connection between the words. Words draw lines of association. They draw these semiotic lines of sign and signified, signifier and sign, or semiotics, whatever you want to call it. There is the symbol and there is the symbolized, right? And here's the honest thing. I love symbolism. I've been doing this stuff for years, but I'm kind of bored of it, guys. Like, come on, when are we going to just get the thing? Like, every symbol in the tarot, every symbol leads to something else, which leads to like a secret doctrine, which leads to a ritual, which leads to an experience, it always leads to something. When is it going to lead to the thing? Like, when are we going to get there, you know? We're in this like semiotic, joyful masturbation, and I love it. It's fun. It's esoteric. It's tarot, but it's like, when do we actually arrive? And that is when there is no thing to arrive at. So language, always, being linear, can only draw a line to a thing. The reason why mysticism sounds insane to a lot of people is because it cannot be transmitted in language, because it is non-linear. There is no thing to draw the line from A to B, okay? So that is why a lot of these mystical states and texts, they cannot be transmitted through books and writing and just communication, because they are non-linear. And I have a lot of people that I work with that are so far into areas of the occult, that are in a number of secret societies, that have done so many amazing things, or whatever, and they come to me, and the block is they're looking for the line to the next thing. But eventually there's not going to be a thing, right? That's what I just kind of, that's what I'm exploring right now. You know, when do we actually arrive at the non-thing that we're actually looking for? Oh boy. Okay. So I want to present to you, I'd like to present to you two trees of life. The tree of life was invented in the Jewish mystical tradition known as qabbalah. It was remixed by hermeticists, Christians, hermeticists, remixed by later ceremonial magicians, and now it's remixed by crazy YouTubers like me, combining it with neoplatonism and non-duality and whatever else I can get my hands on. So this is where I draw the line. So remember how I said language is linear. Language can only lead you to a thing because it is a line. But the mystical experience, whatever you want to call that, enlightenment, spiritual revelation, there's no thing to be led to. So it's not linear. Language fails. However, still, mystics have used language and symbol and every possible line of reference and association and deity and every possible thing they could get their hands on to express that which is not a thing. That which is not something done, made different, or changeable. One such system is the Hermetic Kabbalah and the Tree of Life. And the Tree of Life symbolizes how the absolute God, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, created the world and us in this moment. So the Tree of Life is a ladder between our source, our spiritual source, and our non-spiritual experience in bodies in limitation. And it literally draws lines between one and the other. It's literally a roadmap. Now here I'm going to tell you where people mess up on this. People think of the Tree of Life as this thing that they want to start like hopscotching or something, like, ooh, I'm going to pop in Tiferet, then I'm going to pop in Geburah, and then I'm going to pop in numbers like Binah and Saturn, and maybe it's like that. Maybe it could be like that for you. I'm not saying it's not, so if that is what it is for you, keep on hopscotching away, but I find it's much more profound than that. The Tree of Life is an invention of a dualistic paradigm that stems out of a monistic reality. And all I have to say to prove that is to bring you to Keter right here. It's number one. It's called the crown, and it's one. It's one. Everything comes out of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All of those are emanations, creations of that one, of that absolute source, consciousness, God, whatever you want to say, but it's one. Okay? And so this helps people like us kind of draw the connections between aspects of reality, aspects of our experiences, and hopefully connect it all the way to the source code. Okay, so creation goes this way. And what this Tree of Life does is it shows things within the no thing. The no thing is up here. It's called Ein Sof. There's three veils. There's Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Or. It's three veils of nothingness. Why three? Because how else are we going to explain nothingness? I don't know. There's three veils of nothingness. But out of no thing up here comes a thing. And so the Tree of Life becomes a symbol, a template of how God, reality, consciousness does things. And what are things? Anything done, made, different, changeable, here or there, coming or going in time or space. The tree of life, just like the tarot, just like manifestation, show how God, reality, consciousness does, makes, differentiates, changes, here or there, coming or going in time or space. There's a very similar thing with Tantra and Shakti, and how the Shakti energy hides and reveals and destroys and creates, and it's in all mystical traditions. Okay. However, I am so down to hopscotch this tree of life with you guys, and I do. I teach it in a lot of my courses at Tarot Mysticism Academy, but there's nothing like sitting up right up here. And right up here, on top of Keter, there's non-duality, literally no thing. That's what it's called. It's called Ein Sof. This is crossing the line. That's what the page is called. So from the top of the tree of life, at the peak of spiritual awareness, the sages, mystics, and philosophers can only speak in contradictions. That's why they sound insane. At that level, there is no thing. So there is no thing done, made, different, or changeable, here or there, coming or going. There is no duality. And probably the authority of non-duality, Gaudapada, he's what started the Advaita Vedanta tradition. If you read him, oh my God, it's like the most beautiful thing I've ever read. He just like destroys people's ideas of the world. He's so cool. So he says in this quote, all this duality that is nothing but Maya, Maya's illusion, the world of name, form, and function, the matrix, if you want to call it that. He says, all this duality that is nothing but Maya is but non-duality in reality. And he goes in the Mandukya Upanishad Karika, one of my favorite things. But yeah, so ultimately the tree of life is leading to non-duality. It's just at the top, you know? And so is tarot, ultimately. And this isn't just Kabbalah, this isn't just Advaita Vedanta, this is Hermeticism too. This is the 17th book of the Corpus Hermeticum. And listen, if you're into tarot and stuff, you really want to read this Corpus Hermeticum. It's like, you know, Kabbalion's cool. I know a lot of people have liked the Kabbalion, but if you really want to get into Hermeticism, you got to read the Corpus Hermeticum. Okay, so this is the 17th book according to the translator John Everard. And in the 17th book of that translation, Hermes Trismegistus drops this knowledge bomb, complete knowledge bomb that is not as intense as in his other books, as in his other treatises or whatever. And he essentially says, this is the TLDR, too long didn't read. He essentially says, the maker is not separate from the made. There's no difference, right? He essentially said, ultimately, and he doesn't necessarily say that, but he kind of says it. He says, there's nothing done, made, different, or changeable in time or space, here or there, coming or going. It's freaking so cool. So this lack of separation with the ultimate and us, the macrocosm and the microcosm, the above and the below, if you want to call it that, this lack of separation, I find, is symbolized perfectly by the Ouroboros. And I'm going to explain to you an aspect of it. There's a big, long thing about the Ouroboros that I can't explain in just this one class. I have to like take you through not just one course, but many courses to go there. But I will explain a little bit about it. The Ouroboros is an expression of that made-maker differentiation and union. In Hermetic, whatever pick a tradition, you know? Hermetic, Kabbalah, Tarot, whatever. And so when we recognize that the snake eating its own tail is the maker eating the made, non-separate from itself, really cool things happen. Really cool things happen. Like, I've probably shared this personal thing before, but like, this stuff has like changed my world. Like, I used to be like depressed, anxious, all types of messed up and great, you know, and like, just through this and some exercises, I've like completely transformed my world. Anyway, so the Ouroboros is the made-maker fusion. This is like the fusion of as above, so below. And so the magician becomes a glyph of the making, of the making process, of that which is doing, making, changing, differentiating, here or there, coming or going in time or space. So when we go up the magician, we are going into no thing, that's mysticism, okay? That's what we're going to be doing together. We haven't even gotten into the exercise yet. I know it's been like an hour or so, 45 minutes. And then there is the things, okay? So the things is manifestation or divination. Manifestation would be the active creation of the things. Divination would be the passive knowledge, getting the knowledge of what you're manifesting. Okay, so things, no thing. That which is done, made different, changeable. That which is none of those things. Okay. Before I continue, does anyone have any questions? Because we want to really ground ourselves in all of that before I go. The next step is the actual practice of the Tarot Mysticism process. So does anyone have any questions before I teach the process? Oh, thank you so much, Maria. Oh, thank you, Evie. To be or not to be, yes. Hey, Joe Masters, it's so good to have you. It's so good to connect. Okay, so if there's no questions, I'm going to give the exercise, the process, and yeah. So this is, again, so this is something I'm going to be teaching in a course I do called Mysticism for Misfits, which is all about moving beyond tarot divination and beyond manifestation, and we're going to work on that in the course as well, manifestation and how to like do it, like really do it, do the shadow work, work on yourself, face yourself, like all things that I've done and am constantly doing, like this stuff works. But then after you've manifested everything you wanted, after you've manifested the dream life that you have, by the way, I've done that, like you can do it. It's like, it's not easy, but it can be done. Then there's the next step, which is level 3, the mystical. Then it's that place of, okay, what if all of this was not, okay? This, I don't know, this stuff is wild. Okay, so in Mysticism for Misfits, we're kind of starting to peep our heads into the blue area. So this is, again, just to review, in the green area, this is when we see ourselves as an effect of our life. What is going to happen to me? What do I need to know? It's valid, it's helpful, it's great, I love it. We love it. My whole business is that. Well, not my whole business, but a lot of it is. The next level, yellow, is who am I that is creating this to show up? Okay, this is where the shadow work is. This is where the manifestation is. This is where we have to go back and like look at things we've concluded in this lifetime or another lifetime that are still running in our energy bodies, or however, whatever paradigm you want to use, in our psyche, whatever, okay? This does not see any difference between those things that we experience. At this level, no matter what the hell happens, you will not blink. That's where I want to go. If you want to go there, come with me. Okay, so we're going to go into that. So the Tarot Mysticism process uses the cards to help understand this no thing. What is the thing? Done, made, different, or changeable, here or there, coming or going in time space. Each tarot card and its corresponding path on the tree of life, among many other attributions, there's a lot, is used as a radical ontological affirmation, similar to the great sayings and isomorphic mystical mic drops that we looked at earlier, right? So whether that's Upanishads, whether that's Bible, whether that's A Course in Miracles, whether that's Parmenides, whether that's Plotinus, whether that's whatever. We're looking at these big things now. This is the deep end. Each card and path connects 2 Sephirot. I don't have time to explain all the Kabbalah, but you're just keep up for now, and if I can catch you up on all the Kabbalah stuff at another time. These Sephirot have contemporary titles. The new titles help the student bridge one experience with another. This connects every level of experience with every other level to reach the top. After enough contemplation, the separation between levels of experience, in this case Sephirot, will dissolve. You see there's a little yoga coming in here? That's kind of the method of yoga. This achieves a non-dual understanding that cannot be put into words. So we're using the tarot because there are no words to it. Even using the tarot is a bit of a blind because, but it's somewhere to start. It creates conditions for a mystical experience. I've had students have mystical experiences from this work, and I can't get us all there in like 30 minutes, 60 minutes, but things will happen if you do it. Okay, these are not personal affirmations where you identify with an aspect of you. As an example, a personal affirmation would be, I am powerful, I am strong, I am healthy. Yes, do those, hell yes, do them all day. But this is not what that is. These are existential affirmations of your full being, and the form of that is I am. Just I am. Just stay with that for just a moment. All of the major arcana cards together create a bridge from the absolute, the source, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, to your experience as you. The most effective mode of this process is the word is or I am. However, if that is too abstract or weird for you, you can replace it with I create or I experience. If you replace it with I create or I experience, you are in the dualistic paradigm, and that is okay. You can do that, and it will still do very cool things for you. But don't forget the other level, which is the direct I am. So what every tarot card becomes, and this is the tree of life on non-dualist steroids, this is the holographic tree of life for ontological affirmation. What every tarot card becomes, connecting these dots, is one of those mahavakyas, or mystical mic drops, or profound sayings that directly point to your experience right now. I'm not interested in pulling a card and telling you what's going to happen in a few weeks. I'm not interested in this class in telling you whether you're going to get healthy or not healthy, or what relationships are going to look like, or whatever. I'm interested in looking at what is already here, what's always been here, what's never not going to be here, because that is something that no matter what happens, you can trust and experience directly, with nobody else. And this, I don't want you to take me like being like, oh, Joe's persuading me this crazy shit. No, look into your own experience. And that's what this is about, right? It's not superstitious. It doesn't require belief. All it requires is looking at your own experience, which is, in my opinion, the coolest thing you could do. Face yourself, like literally, existentially, ontologically, spiritually. And then do a million tarot readings, and that's cool. But no matter what you read, it will always appear in a reading to that which is the same, always, everywhere, in every direction. Consciousness, existence, whatever you want to call it. So each of these cards is a way, a mode to approach this direct observation of reality of you. And it starts with the Fool, and I'm not going to have time to go through all of them, but if someone wants to put in the comment, I'll just do one of them really quickly. The Sephirot are retitled to Pure Consciousness, the Observer, the Observed, the Subjective Experience, the Objects of your experience. The Will, the Personal Consciousness is in Tiferet. The Will and the What is 7 in Netzach. In Hod, number 8, we have the Way and the How. And the 9 is Yesod, the automation of reality in your body, the subconscious, and 10 is embodiment. So this tree of life then shows in a colloquial way, without like a million esoteric things you have to figure out and join the secret society and get the magic secret. No, it's none of that shit. I love that shit. It's cool. This has, all you need is yourself. All you need is your awareness. You don't have to do a million like yogic postures. It's just you sitting down and looking and using these aspects of looking at these aspects of yourselves and noticing the connection. Okay, will you do the Magician? I'm curious. Yes, let's do the Magician. So in the Magician card, the Magician connects pure consciousness, Keter number 1, to the observed. Okay, so this is pure consciousness being the observed. I am. So that's the mode. I am. So the mantra, whatever you want to call it, the statement that you have to sit with, and this is not a mantra where you keep saying it to believe it. This is like just noticing. I, pure consciousness, pure awareness, am the observed. So just sit with that. I, and whatever that I is, my body, my mind, my experience, my ears listening to this crazy mystic teacher, whatever, that I is the observed because you are observing it. Does it exist? Yes. Why does it? How do you know it exists? Because you're observing it. I, pure consciousness, am the observed. So if I'm holding this remote, I might hold this remote and say, I, pure consciousness, am this remote. When does this remote end and where do I begin? You might say, oh, your body. But then the body, okay, the body is an object, the observed, within pure consciousness, right? So the magician says, pure consciousness is observed by becoming an object of its own awareness. This is Plotinus's nous, by the way. This creates the world of duality. The dualistic trickery of Mercury as a messenger, you know, Hermes, separates here from there, coming from going, and divides the absolute self into self-knowledge. This allows for the idea of limitation in form represented by Saturn as opposed to the unformed nature of the prima mobile. I'm bringing in astrology and stuff and attributions that come in handy. From the Vedic perspective, this is Maya, the world of illusion, name, form, and function. So, yeah. There's one for each of these cards, and what I'll be doing in Mysticism for Misfits and other programs is going through them one by one. I know I have to wrap up now. Does anyone have any quick questions I can answer before I wrap up? If you want more information on this or other courses, I have courses on divination, on Thoth, tarot, on qabbalah, on hermeticism, on all that good stuff. But if you want any of that or this, you can go to tarotmysticismacademy.com. I have some free courses up, or my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Joe Monteleone. I want to thank Maria so much. Thank everyone, WDA. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for everyone showing up. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me with questions. I know this stuff is can be weird, but I promise if you go into this level, I have not found greater peace, a greater quality of life than going there. So yeah, if you want to go there, let me know. We'll have fun. Love you all so much, and I will see you in the next wormhole.